Welcome everybody to the top 100 cards from Disney Lorcana Shimmering Skies. It comes out on August 9th. If you're buying singles and you're based in North America, please do consider using my TCG Player affiliate link. I get a little percentage of all your spending and it really will add up. So I'd really appreciate if you do that. That would mean a lot. It's a great way of supporting me for free. And here is the split, the breakdown on how many cards from each ink color are going to be in this video. So you might instantly think, oh, Amethyst is the best ink color from Shimmering Skies. That would not really be a good way of looking at it. Because, of course, these 11 Ruby cards, if they're all absolutely insane, then Ruby is going to be the best color from Shimmering Skies. I just thought it was an interesting bit of data to kind of see where everything added up. So 21 cards from Amethyst. We're going to start off looking at the uncommons, building our way up to the legendary cards as well. So Gale is up first, which is a common. It's in the starter deck, I think 2 or 3 copies. Gale Wind Spirit, it's a 3 cost. Quest for 2. When this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand. This just seems like a very powerful card to me. Of course, if it's removed by things like Let the Storm Rage On or Baboom, it's not coming back to your hand. And it's very easy to remove with that 2 willpower. But otherwise, that is just really, really good. A card which is just going to come back into your hand, which Quest for 2. There is, like, for example, it's a Flotsam or a Jetsam card, I think in set 4, which is uninkable and when banished in a challenge returns to your hand. And it's a really good pick in draft. This being inkable and questing for 2, I think is a really incredible card for an aggro deck. Aggro decks often want to dump their hand quite aggressively. You don't even often want to take time off to sing friends on the other side. You'd rather just keep questing. And with this card, you can quest, empty your hand, and it comes back once it's done its questing, which is really great. It can sing friends if you want to as well. I think this card is tremendous. Up next, we have Archimedes, also in the starter deck. It's a 2/2 evasive, the quest for 2. Again, can't really go wrong. Very similar to the Surfer Mini from, I think, set 2, which is a 1/3, which quest for 2. Hasn't seen as much play recently, but to be fair, Ruby decks don't tend to be that aggressive, whereas Amethyst has a lot of very good aggressive cards. The 1-drop Maleficent, Chernobogs and Magic Brooms that cost 1 are really, really good. And there's even a new card we're going to be looking at the moment, which is a great addition to aggro decks. There is also a 5-cost Floodborn Archimedes, which I don't actually think quite made the cut in this video. It probably could have snuck in here. But I think this card's really good. I think it'll see play. Up next, we have Earth Giant Living Mountain, also in the starter deck. 4/5 quest for 2. But its ability is a downside. When you play this character, each opponent draws a card. Now, you might be surprised that I would put a card like this in the video, but its stats are so good. 4/5 quest for 2. It's so difficult to remove. Everything that challenges it in the early game is going to be getting removed. So this is probably going to quest for 2, and 2 of your opponent's cards from the board are going to be removed to deal with this. Of course, Maui can deal with this and stay on the board. And while its ability is a downside, if you're playing an aggro deck and just winning on like turn 6, 7, it doesn't matter if your opponent has 10 cards in hand particularly, right? So I think that this can see play in aggro decks. I actually really like the look of this one. Okay, we've got Anna, the Eager Acolyte. This was one of the last cards I put in. I was at like 98 cards and I decided to put this one in. There is a Shift Anna we're going to be looking at in a moment, which I think is a really powerful card. This is a card which, if Bucky wasn't getting banned, it's getting nerfed, but it's essentially banned. Bucky is no longer really a threat. This would be a really, really popular card because when you play this character, each opponent chooses and exerts one of their ready characters. So it's a way of dealing with ward characters. And I think it can still see play. I think Prince John is going to be very popular, particularly because now Bucky's gone. Emerald's going to go back to maybe Prince John as the kind of centerpiece ward character. And if Prince John is the only readied character on your opponent's side of the board, which it often will be, you can put Anna through and then remove Prince John with one of your other characters. And the fact it's a shift target, I think also makes it pretty interesting. 3 copies of this in the starter deck as well. Okay, this is actually a card I somehow missed in yesterday's video. It got revealed yesterday and somehow it didn't find its way into the video. So sorry about that, but it's amazing. Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom. It's a 2-cost uninkable action and you gain 2 lore. That's really good. That is really, really good. So I think this is going to see a bunch of play in aggro decks. I think aggro decks are making a real comeback with this set. I think maybe my favorite card from the whole set is an Amber aggro card. I think Steel's got some really good aggro cards in Shimmering Skies as well. And Amethyst has too. This is just going to be really good if you need that guaranteed lore. kind of comparable to a Sorcerer's Spellbook, right? Sorcerer's Spellbook, of course, costs 3 and is an item, but you can tap it once per turn for 1 lore. Well, this is just going to help you cross the finish line in a way similar to Goat. So, because it's uninkable, I would imagine it doesn't make the cut, for example, in Ruby Amethyst decks. If this was inkable, you'd play it almost everywhere. But I think in very aggressive decks, this is going to be a really, really good card. Okay, up next we have Finders Keepers, which is an uncommon 5-cost inkable action, also in the starter deck. Draw 3 cards. If it was in any ink color that wasn't Amethyst, it would be a legendary, kind of, maybe. I don't know if that's true. So this is going to be good in a Jafar deck, I think, mainly. I think Jafar got quite a lot of support, and this is definitely a card to keep an eye on in those kinds of decks. It's not a song, but I think it's still probably pretty good. We have the library also in the starter deck. The starter deck for Ruby Amethyst, if you haven't seen my starter deck video, there's a lot of good cards in there. This is a 3-cost inkable location. I think this is one of the best cards from the set, actually. It costs 1 to move there. It has 8 willpower. It gains 1 lore a turn. And the ability lost in a book, whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. A very, very powerful ability. Going to be great with Magic Brooms and Chernobogs because they're banishing to draw. You can move them in. But it's just going to be pretty good with anything, right? Similar to Queen's Castle. Of course, it's 1 cheaper. It gains 1 lore less, but it also has 1 extra willpower. I think it's going to be really, really good. There's some pretty interesting locations. So I could see Steel Amethyst with John Silver, which is gaining lore and 1 resist for each location. I think that is something to keep an eye on. I think this card's really, really good. Okay, we have Maleficent Vexed Partygoer. This is going to be a bit of a niche card, but I think in the right deck could be fantastic. It is a 0/4 that quests for 2, and the ability is whenever this character quests, you may choose and discard a card of yours to return chosen character, item, or location with cost 3 or less to their player's hand. So again, in an aggro deck, especially in Amethyst where you might have an abundance of card draw, you can quest with Maleficent, get 2 lore, and like a Mother Knows Best, right? Bounce one of your opponent's cards back into their hand. That's really powerful, potentially. Because you can do it multiple times. Obviously, you're discarding cards from your hand. But my philosophy when I'm playing hyper aggro decks is, in an optimal world, you end the game with 0 cards in hand. You've utilized every resource possible. Either you've put those cards into your ink world to spend as ink, but maybe instead of using cards as ink, you can use a card to bounce something back, right? It's just very similar, you know, discarding sounds really horrible, but if you think about it, if you just play a Mother Knows Best for 3, that is still 1 card less in hand to bounce one of your opponent's cards back. Okay, Mother Knows Best can target things that cost more than 3, but here you're questing, getting rid of a card, bouncing something back, could be very, very powerful. I think it's good. I actually think it's really good. The more I look at this card, the more I like it. Bruni, also in the starter deck, the Fire Salamander. It's a 2/2 with evasive that quests for 2, and the ability Parting Gift. When this character is banished, you may draw a card. Imagine Bruni into the library, and it gets banished. You draw 2, 1 for Bruni, 1 for the library. Don't mind if I do. We have the Amethyst Chromicon. So these cards, 1 in each ink color. I like them all. They're very much thematic and part of the story. I am going to be working on a video, actually, covering the lore from Shimmering Skies. And these are kind of like the centerpiece. These are what all the characters seem to be looking for in the story of Shimmering Skies. The Amethyst Chromicon is being exerted once per turn, and each player may draw a card. Costs 2. Great for a mill deck, although I'm not sure mill is going to be that powerful. But I think this could be particularly good in a Amethyst Emerald deck, because you might want to discard cards from your opponent. Of course, could also be good with Sapphire because there's a lot of item synergy there. Just seems pretty good. You can play it on turn 2 and exert it instantly to draw. Like, that's just very good, isn't it? It just is. I think it's an incredible card. It's inkable as well. Can't go wrong. Up next we have Rafiki, the Shaman Duelist, which is a 4-cost uninkable with a 1/4 stat line that quests for 2. It has Rush. And then the surprising skill ability is when you play this character, he gains Challenger 4 this turn. So it's going to be a 5/4 rush the turn you play it. But then after that, it's a 1/4 that quests for 2. Which is not bad at all. I think this card's really, really good. I like it a lot. 5/4 rush on 4 in Amethyst? Very, very good card. Elsa's Ice Palace, wasn't sure if I should include this one, but I thought it was interesting enough. And I've heard people being pretty high up on this card. I think there's like a similar card to this in another card game, maybe Magic the Gathering, I'm not sure. But people are pretty high up on this card. It's a 3-cost uninkable. It only has 4 willpower, and it costs 1 to move a card there, gains 1 law per turn. The ability Eternal Winter is when you play this location, choose an exerted character. While this location is in play, that character can't ready at the start of the turn. So you do get guaranteed value on it the turn you play it. If your opponent has an exerted character, which obviously is going to happen in every game of Lorcana, your opponent's going to have an exerted character at some point. You can play Elsa's Ice Palace, and then guaranteed for 1 turn, that won't ready. So I do actually like it quite a lot. 4 willpower is obviously next to nothing, but there's also a lot of Amethyst synergies where you can exert cards. And yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I think there's potential for an Amethyst steel location themed deck. 4 willpower is next to nothing, but even if it doesn't gain its 1 passive law, it's still gaining you instant value because it's denying your opponent from readying 1 character. So I do think it's good. I don't know if it's that good. There's a reason it's uninkable and 4 willpower. Like, it's potentially hugely strong. It doesn't really gain you any benefit to move cards in there, to be fair. It doesn't seem like there's any value in that, unless there's obviously synergies on the characters. Like, there's cards which, if they move to a location, can gain lore, for example. So, pretty interesting card. Up next, we have the Half Hexwell Crown. This is the card which was, spoiler alert, revealed in set 4 through the Ursula's co-op mode. This is a different artwork. The card that you got from the Ursula's co-op mode was an alternative artwork. So this is the artwork that got revealed, I think, yesterday. So the Hexwell Crown is a big centerpiece to the story. It's what Ursula had on her head, and then it got broken in half. The broken crown holds dark and mysterious powers. So this is a 6-cost uninkable item with 2 abilities. You can exert it and spend 2 to draw a card, or you can exert it, spend 2, discard a card, and exert chosen character. To be fair, I don't think this card is great, but I definitely wanted to include it for a couple of reasons. I mean, one, because of its importance to the story. But there is also a lot of expensive items that have been released in this set. And there is the Magica Dispel, or Magica Dispel, card from set 3 into the Inklands, which is a 7-cost uninkable. When it quests, you can choose an item and gain lore equal to the cost of that item. And there's also Scrooge McDuck from, I think, also into the Inklands, which is a 5-cost uninkable in Sapphire. And if it removes something in a challenge, you can play an item for free. I think there's another card in this set, possibly even in this video, which is allowing you to play items for free. So I think expensive items are more powerful than they appear because of potential synergies. But if we do just compare this to the Amethyst Chromicon, is the 2-cost inkable item, which you can exert to draw a card for free. Whereas this one, it's so much worse, isn't it? It's kind of interesting. So I definitely think the synergy with this card is with the Magica Dispel. Is that some kind of hint towards Future of Lorcana as well? We are about to see another Magica Dispel, and she's definitely scheming. Oh, look at that. Right on cue. So Magica Dispel here has the Trident, which Ursula also had. And this is Magica Dispel, Cruel Sorceress, 2/5, quest for 1, playing with power during your opponent's turn, or during opponent's turns. If an effect would cause you to discard 1 or more cards from your hand, you don't discard. If Emerald is like tier 0, like it has been in set 4, this would have been a nice card to have access to in Ursula's Return, wouldn't it? That's for sure. I don't think it's going to see any play, but Emerald does have some more discard support. And if you're playing Magica Dispel, the 7-cost, it is a Floodborn with Shift. This could be a nice shift to target because you could shift onto this, quest instantly with Magica for like 6 to 7 lore in the right kind of deck. So that's worth bearing in mind. We Know the Way. Not really sure this card deserved to be on this list because it confuses me. It's got too much text for me. It's a 3-cost inkable song. Shuffle chosen character from your discard into your deck. So let's say I have a Jafar in my discard. I shuffle it into my deck. I then reveal the top card of my deck, which is of course going to be random because I've just shuffled my deck. If it has the same name as chosen card, you may play the revealed card for free. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So I don't know if it's really any good. It's an interesting card though, so it's one I wanted to talk about. I kind of don't think it's very good, but yeah. Honor, Mystical Majesty, 7 cost uninkable with a 4/5 stat line. This is also a card you get 1 copy of in the starter deck, and of course we looked at that other Honor earlier on as a shift target. There's also the 2 cost Honor from Sapphire from set 4, which when you have a hero on board, quest for 2. So quite a lot of good shift targets. I do think that Sapphire Amethyst got a lot of support this set. And the ability on Honor is wildly good. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. That's pretty good. So most comparable to Elsa from set 1, which of course costs 8 and is a Floodborn with shift. And it exerts 2 characters, but they don't ready at the start of the turn. So the cards that Honor hits will be exerting, but this gives you like an AoE, area of effect, bit of control, which Amethyst is lacking. I think it's a really, really great addition to Amethyst. I mean, a big reason Sapphire decks struggle when you pair Sapphire with Emerald, pair Sapphire with Amber or Amethyst is you don't have that control that Steel and Ruby give you. But Honor, Elsa, they do give you a little bit of control now in Amethyst, Sapphire, for example. So, pretty interesting card. I think it could be good. Olaf, also in the starter deck, 9 cost uninkable, 6/6, quest for 3. It's evasive, hello, and Clear the Path is for each exerted character opponents have in play, you pay 1 ink less to play this character. So let's say you shift in Honor for 4, you exert 3 characters from your opponent, and then suddenly your Olaf only costs 6. But it would have to be in the same turn, right? But if your opponent has like 7 characters, you play Honor on 4, I guess on 6, and you can play Olaf and Honor in the same turn. I don't know. Thing is, your opponent's going to have exerted characters all the time. And a 6/6 that quest for 3 with evasive is very, very good. It shouldn't be too difficult to make this cost 6 with no synergy. It's got potential. Madam Mim Elephant onto the super rares. 4 cost inkable, 3/7, quest for 1. When you play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand. And sneaky move at the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. So it's another Madam Mim. You're bouncing something back with her. So going to be good on rabbits and goats. It is a 4 cost, so it's the same stat line where a lot of good Amethyst cards are, like Goat, Rabbit, Queen's Castle. So I'm not sure you're going to include 4 of this. And Sneaky Move is pretty difficult to achieve because it's going to need to be probably on the board for 2 turns, right? You play it on turn 4, it takes some damage on turn 5, and then if it's still on the board, turn 6 is when you're probably going to be able to first use this ability. Unless you've got synergy with something like Ruby, maybe Teeth and Ambitions, then you could trigger this a little bit more quickly. But the Little Game is the main ability, and it is just a bit of a unit, isn't it? So if Sneaky Move is going to go through, it could be really, really good. Because it's just a bit of a wall. If it's not removed by Medusa, it's going to be a big problem for a lot of decks to deal with. 7 willpower is a lot. Not even Maui can get this in a single swoop. I'm about to sneeze. Mute button OP. Elsa the Fifth Spirit. This is the foil from the starter deck. 2/5, 1 lore, cost 5. It has rush, evasive, and the ability crystallize. When you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. Very, very good, I think. It's very good. You could play just in time into this. Rush on turn 3 with evasive. Remove Diablo. Bam. Exert Diablo. This card's cool. I really like it. Camillo Madrigal. Onto the legendaries. I'm not going to lie. Camillo Madrigal, I don't really like that much. But it is a legendary. We're including all the legendaries in this video. So 6 cost inkable with a 3/7 stat line. It quests for 1. And the ability Imitate is whenever this character quests, you may gain lore equal to the lore of chosen other character of yours and return that character to your hand. This could be good. I think this could be good. Someone mentioned in my comments in the video where I talked about this card previously that the 2 cost Pinocchio could be a nice target for this, that quests for 3. So it gets added to it. So if you targeted Pinocchio with Camillo, then this would quest for 4. And then you can replay your Pinocchio quite cheaply. So has potential. Most of the cards which you want to quest with for big lore are quite expensive. So it is going to be those cards like Pinocchio, Caterpillar from Sapphire, which is a 3 cost inkable that quests for 3. Not really convinced you're going to be wanting to use this on Things like Robin Hood Daydreamer, which cost 6 and have 4 lore. Mirabelle Madrigal is going to be one that people are going to think about. The new legendary from Amber we're looking at later, but that card is so difficult to get down on the board. I just don't think that's ever happening. The card's not bad. The card is not bad, but that 3 strength is really putting me off. Again, my comparison to this is always going to be Robin Hood Daydreamer, which is a 4/5. I've been saying in my videos it's a 4/6, but it's a 4/5. Someone pointed out. Thanks for that. And I would have Robin Hood Daydreamer over this card every day of the week. So, not really that big a fan of Camillo. It's definitely not bad. It could see some play. Madrigal tag, I don't think is relevant at all, but yeah. Cool card. It is my kind of card. I do like cards which can gain a lot of lore in a quick space of time. And obviously returning that character of yours to hand is not necessarily a downside. If you're targeting a Pinocchio that quests for 3, you can then replay that Pinocchio. So the Camillo quests for 4, your Pinocchio quests for 3, and then you can replay your Pinocchio readied. Pretty good. Potential. 3 strength is the big thing that I hate about it because I'm Mana Medusa. Genie. Spectacular Entertainer. 5/5, 7 cost, uninkable. It quests for 2. The ability is Spectacular Entertainer. I don't actually know the name of the Genie card. Sorry about that. When this character is exerted, opposing characters cannot ready at the start of your opponent's turn. I think this is going to be best with Sapphire. Again, just kind of mention the Amethyst Sapphire is a deck which has almost been good for a long time, but it struggles with that kind of area of effect control. This is so good for that. And the thing I like about it in a Sapphire deck is the fact you can ramp into it, because it's going to be quite slow. If you play this on turn 7, you play Genie on turn 7. Then on turn 8, you can quest of it and it's exerted. So it's at the start of your opponent's next turn that they can't ready. Might be a bit too slow. Whereas if you're ramping into it with Sapphire, with like Fishbone Quill and Mickey Mouse, also worth mentioning Amber as well. Amber can ramp into this with cards like Pluto, Gaston, and Doc. This card's got to be good. I think it should just be a really interesting option to open up Amethyst decks like Amethyst Amber, Amethyst Sapphire, Amethyst Emerald, which maybe don't have those control tools. Emerald Amethyst doesn't tend to have control tools, tends to be more aggressive, but if you wanted to try and build the deck in a different way, you could with Genie. I would say most likely Amber Amethyst, and in particular Amethyst Sapphire. I think this card's good. I like it a lot, actually. I really, really like it. Okay, on to Emerald. I wanted to keep Amber for later. Sorry, I'm going in a bit of a random order to keep you on your toes. Starting with the commons, we have Hypnotic Deduction, 3 copies of this, maybe 2 in the starter deck. It's not particularly good in the starter deck itself, but with the right synergies, this card is tremendous. Jafar, you gain 3 lore for it. Bruno Madrigal, you can put 2 cards on top of your deck in order. Bruno Madrigal can then name that character, add it into your hand, gain 3 lore. Bruno Madrigal from Amethyst got a lot of support this set. I think this card's just good in the right deck. It's not going to be a plug-and-play card, but this is a great enabling card in some decks. Banzai, the Taunting Hyena. It's a 2/2 that quests for 1, costs 2. When you play this character, you may exert chosen damage character. This is also one of the ones which I thought about not including, but I thought its ability was interesting enough to warrant a place. Very similar to Pinocchio, the uninkable 1/1, which can exert a character. I would rather have Pinocchio in fairness. This is inkable, but the fact, and it has more stats, but the fact that it has to be a damage character is just limiting the amount of use case for this card. Hyena synergy is a thing as well. Clarabelle, this is, when you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to banish chosen item. This one also snuck in there because it's probably the best item removal that Emerald has, and there is a very good shift Clarabelle option. You can play it on turn 1 as just a 1/2. It's not great. But on turn 3 to remove an item, it's not bad. It's definitely an interesting option. You're welcome. 4-cost Inkable Song, one of the first cards we had revealed. Shuffle chosen character, item, or location into their player's deck. That player draws 2 cards. That's very good. You can sing this twice. Oh, you can't sing this twice with Ursula Deceiver Reveal. Unless it's at Atlantica, which, let's be honest, it's not going to be. I think this card is good. You can obviously use it offensively or defensively, similar to like an Yzma. But if you're playing this in a deck, for example, let's say Emerald Amethyst, where you have lots of 4-cost characters which don't quest for much, like you could use this on a rabbit, for example. Like you sing with the rabbit, you're welcome. You put the rabbit back into your deck, you draw 2 cards, you draw an extra card for rabbit. And you spent 0 lore to do that. That's not bad. And alternatively, giving your opponent cards in hand as an Emerald player can be something that you're really happy to do, because you can discard them and then draw more cards off Prince John. And there's also Prince John's Mirror, which is a card we're going to be looking at soon, limiting your opponent to 3 cards in hand at the end of their turn, where you could just spam your welcome onto their cards, get rid of their board for control, add to their hand, slam down a Prince John's Mirror, and try and discard like 5 cards at once. This is also a good card for a mill deck. I do think that mill is getting closer to being a serious deck. And this card, I think, is going to see play. Clarabelle, Contented Wallflower. I heard a very, very, very handsome content creator revealed this one. It was me. 3-cost Inkable, 2/3 that quest for 1. 1 step behind. When you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you, you may draw a card. So very similar to Maleficent, but with an extra willpower and a conditional ability. But bear in mind, shouldn't be too hard to trigger this ability, because the turn you play Clarabelle, you can also put a card into your Inkwell and then Clarabelle, so that's 2 cards out of your hand. Pretty good. There's also a shift target for this, which I think makes it significantly better. Emerald Chromicon. So again, each ink color has one of these. This is a 3-cost uninkable item, the Emerald Light. During opponents' turns, whenever one of your characters is banished, you may return chosen character to their player's hand. That is very good, isn't it? Very, very good. There's quite a lot of bounce tools in this set. We saw Amethyst have some with that Maleficent. There's quite a few we're going to be seeing in Emerald as well. It is uninkable, but I think in the right deck, you could absolutely play a copy or 2 of this. Probably 1. But imagine you got 2 of these down. Your opponent banishes one of your cards and you can bounce 2 of their cards back to their hand. Pretty good. I will also add, because there's so many items, I think that, for example, Benja is going to make a real comeback into the metagame, and therefore having an uninkable item. I think this has got potential, but it's the fact it's uninkable puts me off it a little bit in what might prove to be an item-heavy meta. If it's a low item-heavy meta, this card is probably good. If it's a heavy item meta, that means Benja's going to be out in full force, and this is probably not very good. Mother Gothel, the Conceited Manipulator. This is one of my favorite cards. It is a 2-cost Inkable 1/3 quest for 1. Mother knows best. When you play this character, you may pay 3 ink to return chosen character to their player's hand. There's also a shift target for Mother Gothel we're going to be looking at in a moment. And that card's pretty good. But I think this is an amazing card. You can play it on turn 2 if you really want. But ideally, you're playing this on turn 5. You're playing this in Amethyst, where you can bounce it back and reuse it multiple times. Really, really good. I like it a lot, a lot, a lot. I really, really like it. Scar Vengeful Lion. This is a foil card in the starter deck, which is the Emerald Steel starter deck. Vengeful Lion, 4-cost Inkable 4/2, quest for 1. It has Ward. Life's not fair, is it? Whenever one of your characters challenges a damaged character, you may draw a card. So similar to a Prince John or a Bucky in the past, it's a card which can just sit there and gain you value. What I like about Scar in particular is it can do something the turn you play it, because you play it down on the board on turn 4, you challenge one of your opponent's characters and it instantly draws you a card, and then it's an engine threat which can continue to draw you more cards. 2 willpower means it can be removed by Grab Your Swords, something to note. But there's also Hidden Cove that you could move it into. I think this card's very, very good. Big potential. Emerald doesn't have an abundance of card draw options, so Scar and Prince John are the main 2 now, and I think that Scar has to be seriously rated quite highly because of how hard it is to come by card draw in this ink color. There's also the Clarabelle we're going to look at in a moment. Remember Who You Are, and a 4-cost uninkable action. If chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw cards until you have the same number. Oh, wow. Emerald is getting some card draw tools. That is pretty good. In a hyper aggro deck, for example, you could just play a couple copies of this in at 4, dump your hand down, maybe in Amber Emerald with the Daisy Duck, which whenever it quests is adding cards to your hand. Maybe in Amethyst Emerald, you use that Maleficent card to discard some of your own cards. You like play the Maleficent on 3, discard a card, and then on that same turn on 4, you play Remember Who You Are. You've bounced a card back to their hand. You've drawn one yourself. Oh, that's so good, isn't it? You've discarded one of yours. You've bounced a card back to your opponents. It seems like really bad value, but then remember who you are. That is good. That is very good. I like it. Sherwood Forest, 2 cost Ingable location. It costs 2 to move there. It has 7 willpower. And 2 abilities. Your character's name, Robin Hood, may move here for free. And the ability Familiar Terrain. Characters gain ward and exert to pay 1 ink to deal 2 damage to chosen damaged character while here. I don't love this card, to be honest, but I thought it was an interesting one enough to share. There are a lot of Robin Hood cards which got printed this set, which I'm not including in my top video. There is one Emerald Robin Hood we're looking at, and there's also a Ruby Legendary Robin Hood. So there's definitely potential for big theme decks for Robin Hood. It's okay. I don't think it's that good, but I thought it was interesting. Like turn 2, 7 willpower. It's probably just going to sit there for a long time. And being able to remove like the Steel Robin Hood into this, and it have ward, meaning it can't be removed by Medusa, can't be removed by Zeus. I think that's where it's going to be best, right? You play the 1 cost Steel Robin Hood on 1, play this on 2, you shift in Robin Hood on 3, you can move it there for free. Because also your 1 cost Robin Hood, right? You play your 1 cost Robin Hood on 1, and then this on 2, your 1 cost Robin Hood can move there instantly, which means it can't be removed by things like Baboom, for example. And then if you wanted to shift in a whole new world, that's going to be very difficult to stop. So there's some potential with this one. Here's the Robin Hood. This card's tremendous. One of my favorite cards from the set. I think there's also 1 copy of this in the starter deck. 9 cost on Inkable, 6/6, quest for 4. You guys know me. I love my Robin Hoods, which quest for 4. Shout out Robin Hood Daydreamer. This is ability. It has ward. Wow. And the ability tag me in. For each 1 damage on opposing characters, you may pay 1 ink less to play this character. Now, let me be clear. This is not damage on many different characters. So if there's a Maui on your opponent's side of the board with 4 damage counters in, this Robin Hood costs you 5. 6/6, quest for 4 with ward. This card is absolutely mind-blowingly good. One of the best cards in the set, in my opinion. Like, this doesn't require any setup. There's going to be damage counters on your opponent's side of the board at stages of the game. So you could just include this like as a one-off, similar to a Chernobog, in a deck with no synergy. But then if you're chasing the synergy, like, it's going to be so cheap to play this. Incredible card. Banzai, 3/2, quest for 2. It's a 2 cost uninkable. Great card. Really good stat line. 3/2, quest for 2. Okay, it's uninkable, but I'm very happy to play this for 2 cost every day of the week. Usually a card with a 3/2 stat line that's inkable would just quest for 1. This is questing for 2. I'm happy to have an uninkable card that gets 1 extra lore. Twice as much lore. It would be better if it was a 2/3. But 3/2 is still solid. Shenzi Head Hyena. This is also in the starter deck. This is the kind of Hyena synergy card. I don't think it's quite there yet, but as more hyenas get printed, it could be. And there is a lot of hyenas in this set, not all of which I'm covering. There's a 3/6 stat line quest for 1, and the ability stick around for dinner. This character gets +1 strength for each other hyena character you have in play. And what have we got here? Whenever one of your hyena characters challenges a damaged character, gain 2 lore. It's alright. I don't think it's going to be good enough. But definitely one to keep an eye on, like, moving forwards. Hyena deck does sound like fun. If it was like whenever one of your hyena characters challenges a character, gain 2 lore, the damage part of it does make it a little bit more niche. Shenzi Head Hyena is in the Emerald Steel starter deck, so some kind of Emerald Steel ping deck is most likely where the Head Hyena is going to find its place. It's very thematic, isn't it, that it's damaged characters and the hyenas are scrapping up all that good stuff. I can just see something in the background. Is that some kind of Easter egg? I don't know. I think it's just a hyena. Oh boy, here we go. Prince John's Mirror. We alluded to it earlier. This is all the rage on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, please. 3 cost inkable item. You look regal. If you have a character named Prince John in play, you pay 1 ink less to play this item. This part of the ability is pretty much irrelevant for now. That's a little bit disingenuous, but I don't think you're actually playing this in a deck with Prince John necessarily. I mean, you might, but if you're playing Prince John, you're going to have an abundance to discard. And I actually think this card is best in a deck which is not focused on discard, but is adding maybe cards to your opponent's hand, and like with things like Whole New World, maybe with like Mother Knows Best type triggers, and then you just play this later in the game. You don't want to play this on turn 3. Now, if there was a Prince John character which costs 1, and you could play this on turn 2, then I would be very interested in this part of the ability, and I would imagine that that will come into play in a year's time. We might get a 1-cost Prince John, and then suddenly Prince John's Mirror, and everyone's like, oh, I can play this on turn 2. That's pretty nice. Feeling of Power is obviously where the strength is at. At the end of each opponent's turn, if they have more than 3 cards in their hand, they discard until they have 3 cards in their hand. Now, of course, you could play this with Prince John. You play Prince John on 3, and then on turn 4, you could play an Ursula Deceiver and Prince John's Mirror. Pretty good tempo. Really good tempo. The thing is like, if you're focusing on discarding your opponent's hand, it's unlikely that this is ever going to get you any value, right? Because it's at the end of your opponent's turn. They draw, they ink, they can play a card, maybe play 2 cards. And it's just going to mean that you're not discarding anything. So I'm not sure it's necessarily good with Prince John itself, but in a like a mid-range Emerald deck, maybe like a control-focused Emerald deck. By the way, I have an Emerald Sapphire deck coming soon, which I played at Set Champs at the weekend. 36 Uninkables. Don't miss out on that one. In that deck, Prince John's Mirror could be great. Faversham Fuel, for example. In like a long game, maybe with Emerald Amethyst, where you're drawing lots of cards, and your opponent's drawing lots of cards, and then you just dump this out of nowhere. Surprise! That's where this card gets its value. With Whole New World, right? It could be great as well. So there's lots of potential for this card, but I just don't... I think a lot of people have gravitated towards this card. Oh, I'm going to play it in my discard deck. I actually don't think so. I like it, though. Really, really cool design. Scroop the Odious Mutineer onto the Super Res. 3-cost uninkable, 2-1 evasive with 2 lore. Do say hello to Mr. Arrow. When you play this character, you may pay 3 ink to banish chosen damaged character. So, I mean, if we compare this to the Archimedes that we looked at earlier, 3-cost inkable 2-2 that quest for 2 evasive. This is uninkable, has 1 less willpower, but has the upside of this potential ability. And it's a pretty powerful ability. Not super convinced by this. I think there's other cards with a similar ability to this, which we're just about to see, including a legendary, which are a little bit better. But Scroop could be okay. I mean, 2-1 evasive that quest for 2 on turn 3 is really not bad. So you don't really need this ability for it to be decent, in all honesty. Like, the 1 willpower is not a big deal that it has less than the Archimedes. The fact it's uninkable is, but then it's got the potential upside of later in the game being higher impact. Getting to 6 with Emerald is pretty difficult often. I don't love it. It's not bad. Prince Philip has 3-9 stats, 7-cost inkable, quest for 3, and the ability Dragon Slayer. When you play this character, you may choose and banish an opponent's dragon character. So, the main dragons, there's the Madam Mim dragon, which no one plays. There's Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. Mushu? Nope. There's no Mushu in the game. I don't know. Is there any other dragons? I feel like there might be. I feel like I'm forgetting a dragon which is quite popular at the moment. But hey, if dragons get more popular, Prince Philip's interesting. Take advantage of the advantage when this character challenges a damaged character. Ready him at the end of the challenge. So you can take out multiple things at once with this card. And also important to note that you can challenge something that's damaged, ready it, challenge something else which is damaged, ready it, and then if you're done challenging, you can still quest for 3. That's pretty good. So if you are hitting a dragon with this, card is wildly good. If you're not hitting a dragon, it's honestly not bad. 3 strength, Madam Medusa. Mother Gothel, Unwavering Schemer, which is the card I alluded to earlier. The Floodborn, it's shift 4, it costs 6. 4-6, quest for 2. 4 is a very nice strength number because it's out of Madam Medusa and World's Greatest Criminal Mind range. The World is Dark. When you play this character, each opponent chooses one of their characters and returns that card to their hand. Pretty good. Someone in my YouTube comments yesterday mentioned as well, when I was reviewing this card, I kind of underestimated how weak the top-end Emerald cards are. A lot of the Emerald cards, which cost 6 or more, are just not very good. Robin Hood Daydream are kind of the exception there, in my opinion. And Mother Gothel is another solid option. Morph target, potentially. I don't love this card. I definitely prefer the cheaper Mother Gothel, but I think it's good. I could definitely see a world where this sees play. This card's great. Anna, Diplomatic Queen, legendary. 3 cost, uninkable, 2/3, quest for 2. Royal Resolution is when you play this character, you may pay 2 to choose 1. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. I love it. You guys know me, I love my discard. Chosen character gets +2 strength this turn. Also good. Banish chosen damage character. That's 3 incredible options. A big problem that like an uninkable... This is a 5-cost card. That's the way of really evaluating it. It's a 5-cost card, which is uninkable that you can play on turn 3 if you've got a dodgy hand, right? So, I really like this card. If your opponent has a card in hand that you want to discard with Prince John, great. But then if you've already done all your discard value, like your opponent's now emptied their hand, they're denying your Prince John value by keeping no cards in hand. Anna is not just like similar to Jasmine, not doing that much. She is then able to have a impact. Banish chosen damage character is such a powerful ability potentially that's a flexible one. Like the reason I don't really like the Scroop is because it's like, okay, not really sure it's doing that much. This is cheaper than the Scroop because it's going to cost you a total of 5, whereas Scroop is 6. And you can banish the chosen damaged character where there's going to be sometimes that is so good, but you just don't want a whole card dedicated to what is going to be a niche situation. But Anna, you're mainly going to be using her to discard a card. But then if not, you don't need that. You can banish chosen damage character. If you need a bit of extra strength to move Queen's Castle or something, bam! Then you've got this ability. I think it's so strong. Excuse me. Clarabelle. This is the legendary I was talking about. So we saw there's 2 other shift targets. There was the 1/2, which you can pay 2 to remove an item. And there's the 3 cost I revealed. 2/3 quest for 1, which if your opponent has more cards in hand than you draw a card. And this Clarabelle is great because at the end of your turn, choose an opponent. If they have more cards in hand than you, draw until you have as many cards in hand as them. Kind of similar to the... I don't remember the name of it, but it's like the You Have Forgotten Me Emerald type card. The 4-cost uninkable. I don't remember the name. But this card's good, I think. Quest for 2, which isn't that much, but 5/6 stat line is very difficult to deal with. I like it. On to Ruby. Ruby, remember the ink color with the least cards in this video. Tafita, Mutton Fudge. I need to watch this film. This is Wreck-It Ralph 2, right? I watched the first one, not the second. 3/3 is shift 2, and there are a couple of other Tafita Mutton Fudges. There's a 1 cost and a 2 cost. The 1 cost I don't really like, and the 2 cost is like a vanilla stat line, 2/2 quest for 2. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. Might not sound that impressive. This could be a wildly good card, I think. Scar! Long live the king. When you play this character, you may banish chosen character named Mufasa. So it's a 6/3 stat line that quest for 2. So of course you could use this on your own Mufasa. If, you, let's say, quest with Mufasa in Amber, and then you want to get rid of him in high roll, bam, income Scar, you find a dragon. Maybe you know what's on top of your deck somehow. That's fine. But the Sapphire legendary Scar, Mufasa is going to be a menace. I think it's one of the best cards from the set. It's a card we're going to be covering a bit later. So having targeted removal for that card could be good. I will say, I don't think you're going to play this card outside of a Mufasa deck of your own. But then if you are playing Amber Ruby, for example, you're really trying to target your opponent's Sapphire Mufasa. And then, if not, if you're in a different matchup, then maybe you can just use Scar on your own Mufasa. High roll into a Maleficent Dragon or something like that. Glimmer versus Glimmer in the starter deck. 2 copies of it. 4 cost an inkable action. Banish chosen character of yours to banish chosen character. Could be good with a card which, when it's banished, comes back to your hand. So like, hey, 2 cost. Maybe there's... I mean, honestly, it's not the worst idea. But doesn't sound like that's going to be that consistent. But obviously just targeted removal is an interesting option. I feel like it's probably not good enough to see any play. But if there are any characters which you want to banish repeatedly, like the Hey almost, this becomes a lot more of an interesting option. The Ruby Chromicon. This might be the best of the bunch. It's a 1-cost inkable item. Ruby Light. You can exert it and chosen character gets +1 strength this turn. Very good. Very good. In particular with Sapphire, with Flaversham. At the moment, there's the Fortosphere, which is giving plus. You have to. It's 1 cost item in Ruby, and then you have to pay 1 to use it, and it gives +2 and rush, and then banishes itself. What I like about this card is you can use it repeatedly, and all you need is 1 damage for your Maui to remove a Queen's Castle. So I think this card is going to be huge for Ruby Sapphire, dealing with Queen's Castle. And it's possible Queen's Castle might go out of favor a little bit due to this card. Ratagan Party Crasher. It's a shift 4. Now, I haven't included it in this video, but there is like a 3-cost Ratagan with a lot of willpower, I think 5, which would be a great shift target for this. There's a few other Ratagan cards as well. 7-cost Uninkable, 5/5. Shift 4, quest for 3, evasive. You damage characters get +2 strength. If you can shift this on 4, it's good. If you're paying 7 for it, it's bad. Vanellope von Schweetz, random roster racer. 4-cost Uninkable, 3/3, quest for 2. Rush, picks Lexia. When you play this character, she gains evasive until the start of your next turn. There's also 1 copy of this in the starter deck. Very, very good card. Very, very good. Can deal with Diablo. I love a card that can deal with Diablo instantly. And what I like about it is you can rush in with it, remove an evasive, which is going to be a lot of evasive, potentially in Amethyst. We saw like the Archimedes, the Bruni. It's going to remain on the board because of its 3 willpower. And it's then also going to stay evasive until the start of your next turn. So you're probably going to get to quest for 2 there as well. I like it a lot. I really, really do. Wreck-It Ralph, Demolition Dude. This is a 3-cost Ingable 1/4. This is a foil card in the starter deck. Quest for 1. Refreshing Break. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each 1 damage on him. So, best case, you can get 3 damage counters on Wreck-It Ralph, and then you can play cards like LeFou to ready it multiple times, and you can try and build a whole deck around this card to just gain loads of lore. Really, really cool. I doubt it's going to be that good, but certainly one I'm going to be building a theme deck around. You guys can expect lots of theme decks, by the way, this set. Like I'm going to be building decks that are not necessarily that good, but are fun. Sugar Rush Speedway. Now, the card I want you to think about is the Tafita Mutton Fudge, which is whenever it moves to a location, gains 2 lore. Once per turn, I think? This one. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. Alright, and now look at this card. The Sugar Rush Speedway. It's a 1-cost Uninkable, costs nothing to move there. It has 5 willpower. Once per turn, you may exert chosen character here and deal 1 damage of them to move them to another location for free. What a cool card, thematically. So, pretty cool. You can move Tafita here for free. Bam. Exert. Move her to another location. Gain 2 more lore. And then if she still remains on the board, then you can move her back to the Sugar Rush Speedway next turn for free. Gain 2 more lore. Pretty spicy. Up next, we have Gaston Pure Paragon. This was Baker's reveal, Lorcana villain. This card is absolutely insane. 9-cost Uninkable, 10 strength, 6 willpower. Excuse me. Quest for 2. It has Rush and the ability A Man Among Men. For each damage character you have in play, you pay 2 Inkles to play this character. 2? 2 Inkles? So you're telling me I need 2 damage characters, and Gaston is going to cost me 5 as a 10-6 Rush that can quest for 2? This card seems kind of busted. It is uninkable. It is uninkable. This card is mind-blowingly good, isn't it? Absolutely incredible card. Maximus, the champion of the... I don't know. The race? L'Equipe? Isn't like L'Equipe like a newspaper as well? Let's go with the race. The event. The contest. I don't know. It's a 3/5, quest for 2. It costs you 6 to play. It is inkable. And the ability is a reward worthy of a king. At the end of your turn, if you have a character in play with 5 strength or more, gain 2 lore. If that character has 10 strength or more, gain 5 lore instead. Maui is gaining you lore with this as well. It's at the end of your turn. So you can gain that lore instantly. Imagine you got a Gaston that just came through with a Rush. Right? Just 10 damage, why not? On a Queen's Castle or something. Or a McDuck Manor in a single swoop. And then you play Maximus. And then you quest for 2. And this gains 5 lore. That's 7 lore. So you remember when I said that just because Ruby has only 11 cards in this video doesn't mean that it's like not got much? Yeah. This card is all it needs. Robin Hood Sharpshooter, which I love, by the way. It seems like I'm missing a legendary. I'll try and edit that in at the end. Robin Hood Sharpshooter, which is a 4-cost uninkable, 1/4 stat line, quest for 2. My greatest performance. Whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest in your discard. So for me, the place where this is going to be best is in a Amber Ruby deck, where you've got cards like Revive, and there's another 6-cost action song we're going to look at. Could be good in a Ruby Steel deck. Find the Whole New World. Yeah, this card's insanely good. This card's so good. People on Twitter were like, yeah, it's easy to remove. It's 1/4 and it's not going to quest. It's like, okay. Okay, but I have 4 of these, maybe. And is it that easy to remove? I don't know. It's like, you're going to have more threats. Like, do you really want to be brawling a card like this? I mean, I guess you are because you have to, but I don't think I'm that unhappy if I play a 4-cost card and it gets brawled. My opponent's taking a whole turn off to do that. I think this card's tremendous. Donald Duck, we're on to Sapphire. Focused Flatfoot 3/4 quest for 2. When you play this character, you may put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell face down and exerted. This card's grown on me the more I've thought about it. You can play Mickey Mouse on 3, this on 5 to ramp, and then sing a whole new world with it. Basil Practice Detective. It's a 2/1, 1-cost character, quest for 1, and it has support. Not a 1/2 with support, like Hey from set 1. No, this is a 2/1 on turn 1 with support. And there's a 6-cost Basil Shift, which if you shift, you draw 2 cards. This is the best Sapphire 1-drop that's not, that's a character by a mile. Huge deal for Sapphire. Up next we have, it's called like something Melody or something like this. And it's a 2-cost inkable song action in Sapphire. Remove up to 2 damage from any number of characters of your choice. Grandpappy. There's a new OTK combo of this and Grandpappy. Probably in Emerald Sapphire. Like one problem with Grandpappy, which is a 7-cost uninkable card I keep talking about. It quests for 3. It's like a 3/6 stat line or something, so it can be removed by producer. But whenever you heal a character, you gain 2 lore. So if you've got 10 characters on the board, okay, I know, probably you don't, and they're all damaged, and you sing this with Ursula by 2, you sing this with Ursula Deceiver of All, you remove 1 damage because it's up to, you repeat, you do it again, 20 lore 1 turn. Hello. Obviously, that is a little bit ambitious, but even without the Ursula Deceiver of All, this card has huge potential with Grandpappy. Vision of the Future. This is very similar to a more expensive Develop Your Brain. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you put 1 into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Very good for digging for things like Lucky Dime in the late game. Great card. Really, really good. If this was in any ink color that isn't Sapphire, it would be like an auto-include card in so many of the ink colors. Sapphire just has lots of good cards like this. It has Porpsicles, Flabbershams, Develop Your Brain. But this will see play in the right deck. Hideaway. Now, I think I underestimated this card yesterday, because this puts a chosen item or location into its player's Inkwell face down and exerted. I was comparing it to Rise of the Titans and saying I would always rather have Rise of the Titans than this. Obviously, it's in a different ink color. But what I did underestimate, and my YouTube comments very well pointed out, is this would be great on a Lucky Dime, because then the Lucky Dime is not in the discard, and therefore Tamatoa can't just fish it back out. So you are getting rid of that Lucky Dime, although the Mufasa card we're about to look at in the moment can put cards from the Inkwell into its hand. But it's at random, I think, so. Cool card. Merlin's Cottage. Wow, this card's nuts. This is a nutty card. It costs 7. It has 7 willpower. I'm slightly covering it up. It's a 1-cost inkable. Costs 1 to move there. And Knowledge is power. Each player plays with the top card of the deck face up. Huh? What? Bruno Madrigal, Sapphire, Amethyst is going to absolutely pop off with this card. But it's super cool. You get information on what your opponent's drawing. Of course, your opponent gets information on what you're drawing, but this is going to be a really fascinating card. 7 willpower as well, by the way, on turn 1. Hello. King Candy, this card almost didn't make it, but I figured it was good enough to include. 5 cost, uninkable, 3/3 quest for 2. It has shift 3. And when you play this character, you may draw 2 cards. Put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Another reason I wanted to include this card is because 5 cost characters in Sapphire are inherently quite good because of Whole New World. Obviously, Whole New World is a steel card, but Sapphire is very good with Whole New World because of its ramp. And I just like the idea that you can play this down. If you've got a handful of 2 Whole New Worlds, you could put 1 on the bottom, for example. I quite like it. There's also like a Ruby card, which is like a 2/3 rush, which is called King Candy if you're shifting it. So there's potential of like a Ruby Sapphire King Candy deck. The Sapphire Chromicon, which is a 4 cost uninkable item, which enters play exerted. So then starting from turn 5, you can exert it, spend 2 ink to banish one of your items and gain 2 lore. I don't love this one, but in an aggressive Sapphire deck, this is going to gain you lore. Tipo, the Growing Sun, 2 cost, inkable, 1/2, quest for 1, measure me again. When you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. It's like a 1 jump ahead with a body, but instead of a card from the top of your deck, it's from your hand. So it's interesting. There's a better card. There's a card we're about to see which is better. I don't think this one's going to quite make the cut, but I mean, in like a Whole New World deck, it's like a ramp card for 2. Here she is, Chicha, Dedicated Mother, insane card. 2 cost, uninkable, 2/1, quest for 1. Support, 1 on the way during your turn. When you put a card into your inkwell, if it's the second card you've put into your inkwell this turn, you may draw a card. Wow. So you can play this on turn 2, sing 1 jump ahead, and then ink normally, and you get to draw. That's already good on its own, right? It's already pretty good on its own. And obviously, you could just leave it readied and just keep getting value from it. Again, in a Whole New World deck, you can squeeze this down at some point for just 2 ink. And then you're just going to be absolutely going crazy with the amount of cards you can get in your inkwell with this. And 2/1 with support is not that bad either. Like, if this costs 1, I would quite like it. Like, the Mouse Detective was an inkable version of this that cost 1. So the support on this with the ability is just a nice upside as well. So it's one of the first support cards, as well as Basil, that I actually think can see competitive play. This one, not really for its support ability, but it's a nice little bonus, that's for sure. And next we have Sheriff of Nottingham, and it's a 9 cost uninkable, 5/9, quest for 4. Every little bit helps. For each item you have in play, you pay 1 less to play this character. Again, Sapphire Steel is going to love this card with those Fortispheres. Could be incredible. If you've got 4 items down, this is going to cost you just 5. Quest for 4? Insane. Scrooge McDuck. This one snuck in there as well. 4 cost uninkable, 5/5, quest for 2. It's a vanilla card, but it's got very, very good stats. I would prefer it if it had like slightly less stats and quested for 3 probably, but 5/5, quest for 2? That is not easy to deal with. This trades with a Maui. That's very good. Belle of the Ball. 4 cost uninkable, 2/3 with ward, quest for 2. Ushered into the party. When you play this character, your other characters gain ward until the start of your turn. It's comparable to Aurora, but what I like a lot more about Belle is that she has ward herself. I think this card's tremendous. I think that you could bounce this card back multiple times as well in a Sapphire Amethyst deck to just give your whole board ward. Could be really, really good. I like it a lot. I really like it a lot. Hero Princess are 2 relevant tags as well, potentially. Kuzco Selfish Emperor. When you play this character, you may put chosen item or location into player's inkwell face down and exerted. Look at Kuzco skipping the queue. All the villains are stuck in the queue, and Kuzco's like, yeah, mate, no problem. Also, is his robe the red carpet? Like, what is going on there? Very good. It's similar to... There's a steel card, a Simba card, which does something similar. When you play it, item or location into the inkwell. So you could put that Lucky Diamond into the inkwell. You could put that Queen's Castle into the inkwell. The other part of the ability is not going to come up that often, but these Sapphire decks we've seen can start to generate stupid amounts of ink. So if you've got 4 spare ink, you can use this ability to give your other characters resist 1 until the start of your next turn, which is pretty good. Prince John, Gold Lover. There's 2 different artworks for this. This is the artwork you get if you purchase like Disney Villainous, which is like a Ravensburger Disney board game, and you get a alternative art Prince John from that. And I have to say, I think this card is incredibly good, potentially, in the right deck. It doesn't look it, but you can exert it and play an item from your hand or discard with cost 5 or less for free exerted. So there's quite a lot of pretty expensive items. When I was talking about the half Hexwell Crown, I kind of alluded to this card. If it was cost 6 or less, then the half Hexwell Crown as well as the Steel Chromicon would be options. The fact they're not maybe makes this slightly worse, but again, I think in a Sapphire Amethyst deck with Magicka Dispel in particular, this could be really, really good. Oh my days. This is maybe the best card from the set. It's right up there. 8 cost uninkable Mufasa, Ruler of Pride Rock. 4/9, quest for 4. A delicate balance. When you play this character, exert all cards in your Inkwell, then return 2 cards at random from your Inkwell to your hand. Pardon? Whenever this character quests, ready all cards in your Inkwell. Pardon? This card is so insane. This card is so ridiculously good. It costs 8, it's expensive, but you're in Sapphire. So you just want to turbo ramp as quickly as you can, get Mufasa down, and then you play him. You exert all your cards in your Inkwell, which you're probably going to have to do if you're playing him on, early in the game anyway. But then 2 of those cards go back into your hand, which is probably a good thing, right? You're going to be happy to have some of those back in your hand. You might have been tapping away expensive uninkables with your Fishbone Quill. Suddenly you've got 2 cards back in hand. Okay, you've got 2 less ink. But then the following turn, you're going to draw a card. You're going to be at 3 cards in hand. And if they're all expensive, let's say you've got like 2 6-cost cards, you play like one of those Cuzco cards we just looked at that cost 6, then you quest with Mufasa, and then you can play another 6-cost card like a Gaston, because it readies all your Inkwell. It's absolutely bonkers, this card. It is bonkers. Very cool. Merlin Intellectual Visionary, which is a 6-cost uninkable 3/7 quest for 2. It has Shift 5, and the overdeveloped brain is when you play this character, if you use Shift to play him, you may search your deck, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Any card you want in the game in your hand. Sounds amazing. I don't think so. The Shift is too expensive. Shift 5. Obviously, there's a couple of Merlin cards in Sapphire that already exist as shift targets. Most of the Merlins are in Amethyst. Do you really want to be shifting onto those cards like Rabbit and Goat with this? Not really. You'd rather have them on the board. While it's a very unique and interesting ability that maybe could be a sign of things to come in Lorcana. For those of you that play Yu-Gi-Oh, this is kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh card, right? Very powerful to search your whole deck and put something in hand, but I don't think it's very good. This card I do think is very, very good. One of the best 1-drops in the game now. The Mickey Mouse Food Fight Defender. 1/2 with resist 1, and it quests for 1. There is a 5-cost Mickey Mouse, which is a shift 3. And this is so difficult to deny the shift on because you're going to need smash. If I just leave Mickey Mouse readied, how are you going to stop me shifting that Mickey Mouse and singing Whole New World? Insane card. Kronk, Unlicensed Investigator, which is a 2-cost Stinkable 1/4 with Challenger 1. You might be like, Spec, this should not be in the video. This doesn't seem that good. There's a shift Kronk target, and this is by far the best shift target for it. And it's not bad. It's not great, but it's definitely a good shift target. Happy, the Lively Knight. This card is mind-blowingly good. So there's a bunch of 7 dwarfs with the Knight tag. Most of them are terrible, but this one is incredible. It's a 2/1, the quest for 1, and during your turn, this character gains evasive. One of the best 1-drops around. So good. Hey Hey Protective Rooster. This one also snuck in. It's a 5-cost, 4/5 with Bodyguard, quest for 2. I mean, how could I not include such a cool card? Simba Lost Prince. This is also a shift target. It's a 3-cost Ingable 2/4. Face the past. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may draw a card. That's very good. It's similar to Jafar Dreadnought. Of course, Jafar Dreadnought only tends to see play because it's the Jafar card and it's got the Floodborn tag. But this is cheaper. You can sing Friends with it. You can sing Let the Storm Rage On. You can shift Simba. I think it's just pretty solid. This is the Simba Shift, Son of Mufasa. 6 cost Ingable, 3/5, Shift 4, Quest for 1. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item or location. So I've already been saying, like, I think Benja could make a real comeback. Well, this is a great card that's kind of Benja and Rise of the Titans mixed in with one. Okay, it only quests for 1. But that is very powerful to just be able to remove a location, remove an item with a body. Very, very good card. I think it's going to see a lot of play. It's in the starter deck too, 2 copies of it. Stitch Team Underdog, which is a 4-cost uninkable, 1 4-stat line, quest for 1. Heave Ho, when you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to chosen character. Any character. Not damaged characters, any character. That's good. You could bounce this in Amethyst as well and do that multiple times. 7 Dwarfs Mine, 2-cost Ingable location. It costs 2 to move there. It has 6 willpower. It gains 1 law per turn. Mountain Defense. During a turn, the first time you move a character here, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. If the moved character is a knight, deal 2 damage instead. So a 2-cost Ingable location with 6 willpower that gains 1 law per turn is pretty good in its own right. Particularly when it's in Steel, because Steel has this John Silver card, which is like the best payoff for locations in the game, and it's never quite caught on. So having a good location in Steel makes this card inherently better. Of course, if you can get that Knight synergy, you're paying 2 to deal 2 damage. That's pretty good. Not sure there's going to be that much Knight synergy, but again, we did just see that there is this card, for example, like this dwarf is good, for sure. There's another pretty good dwarf, which I actually think I forgot to include in the video. So I'll mention that now. My apologies. It is a dwarf. Maybe it is. We'll check it's not there. It might be a rare. It might be in the deck, in the video still. But yeah, this has potential. Steel Chromacon. Not huge on this card. It's okay. If it had synergy with that Prince John, it would be a bit more interesting. You can get it down for free with Scrooge McDuck. And you can exert it once per turn to deal 1 damage to chosen character. I think it's easy to underestimate how powerful the ability of this is. Once you've got it down on the board, it is not costing you anything more. So if you can get this card down, it's incredible. The issue is getting it down. Pete Games Referee, best card in the set. How many times have I said that this video? But no, really, this is the best card in the set. It's a 3-cost Inkable in Steel with a 3/3 stat line that quests for 1. So a vanilla card with this stat line would quest for 2. With no ability. The ability is insane. Blow the whistle. When you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn. Someone asked me in the comments of yesterday's video or the starter deck video, is this also going to deny songs? Yes, because every song is an action. You could play this on turn 3, play this on turn 4, play this on turn 5, bounce it back, and your opponent's just sat there with all their songs, unable to do anything. This card is going to shape the meta in a way similar to Ursula Deceiver and Bare Necessities in set 3, I think. It can sing Let the Storm Rage On, it can sing Friends. It's so good. It is so good. Doc, get in. I did include it. 2-cost uninkable. Bold Knight, 1/3 stat line quest for 1. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards. That is very good. You might be wondering, why would I want to discard my hand? Well, what if this is the last card in your hand and you discard your hand to draw 2 more? Or you have 1 card in hand. You have 2 cards in hand as you play Doc, right? Play Doc, you've got 1 card in hand, which is bad. You discard that, draw 2 more. That's really good in an aggro deck. I like this card a lot. Namiri. I don't have any other choice. For each opposing character that was banished in a challenge this turn, you may pay 2 ink to play this character. And it has resist 3, quest for 3, 5/5. I think this one's more difficult to achieve than a lot of the other ink colors. Like, I think every ink color basically has a card like this. There's the Robin Hood, the Gaston. This is one of the weaker ones, I would say. But if you can get it down, it is a powerhouse. That's for sure. So if you can banish 2 characters in a challenge, it's going to cost you 5. Shouldn't be that difficult to pull off. Pretty good card. Yzma, the Unjustly Treated, which is a 4-cost uninkable, 1/4 quest for 2. Kind of similar to the Emerald Scar card we looked at earlier. Doesn't have ward and is uninkable. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes a character in a challenge, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. Again, I like that this is causing a splash as soon as it hits the board. So even if it's brawled, you still get value from it. Because you play it on turn 4, you remove something in a challenge, and then bang, you get 1 damage ping. If you can remove 2 things in a challenge, 2 damage pings, could be incredibly good. I like it quite a lot. It's similar to the Stitch card, right? Very, very similar. This is doing 2 damage when you play it, whereas Yzma is more of an engine. So Stitch would be better in a bounce deck, whereas Yzma's going to be better in an engine overload deck, where you've got lots of threats, and she's just another threat which your opponent might not have enough removal to deal with. This card's really good. I really, really like it. Kronk, head of security. No, you're not coming in, Yzma. Not today. What do you mean, not on the list? I told you to always put... Kronk, head of security. 7 cost uninkable, 6/6, quest for 1. Shift 5. We saw that 2 cost Kronk card earlier, which is a 1/4 with Challenger 2. Which costs 2. Are you on the list? During a turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character with cost 5 or less for free. Very, very good. Particularly going to be good in whole new world decks, where you can just slam Kronk down. You do want to rush in with Kronk ideally, so you want to shift it, essentially. Or maybe there's a way of giving it rush. There is a weird Cogsworth card not in this video in Amethyst, which is a 1/1. Which quests for 1 and costs 1. And it can give another one of your characters rush. I doubt that's going to be something you do. I think you're going to be looking to shift this. Morph could also be an option, and that other Kronk is the only real other shift target. But if you can pull it off, it's going to be absolutely incredible. Arthur, King Victoria, 7 cost uninkable, 3/6 legendary, shift 5, 3 lore. There are some other Arthur cards which got printed this set. There's one in Ruby, which is a 1 cost uninkable 3/2 with Reckless. So that could be a nice shift option in a Ruby Steel deck. And there's also Arthur Wart, which is a 2 cost vanilla card. So 2/2 stat, quest for 2. There's also, of course, Arthur from set 2 in Amethyst, which is that 3 cost uninkable, which can bounce cards back when it quests. Knighted by the King. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger 2 and Resist 2 and can challenge ready characters this turn. Being able to challenge ready characters is really good, and being able to give that to a card with Challenger and Resist. For example, this is going to be really, really good in a Amethyst Steel Mirror, where Cogsworths just sit on the board doing nothing, and it's kind of like Battle of the Cogsworths. Well, suddenly, if you can put an Arthur down on the board, you can challenge your opponent's Cogsworth, and your card's going to get Resist 2 and Challenger 2, which makes it it's not going to take any damage from a Cogsworth, right? It is uninkable. It is pretty expensive. I don't think it's going to be that easy to shift, but in the right deck, like with some kind of ramp tools, maybe like a Gaston in Amber Steel, maybe Sapphire Steel could make use of it, as I just mentioned, or some kind of shift deck. It's very, very interesting. We have Jafar, the Tyrannical Hypnotist, which is a 6 cost Ingable Legendary with a 0/7 stat line, which quests for 2. It has Challenger 7 and Intimidating Gaze. Opposing characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge at all, period. Not just that they can't challenge Jafar. Any of your opponent's characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge. It doesn't get removed by Maui with its 7 willpower. It is a shift possibility for the Jafar, which gains lore for every card draw. Reese, who finished second, was like, why are you talking about that in your video? Well, if I'm going to shift in a Jafar and sing Whole New World, I don't care what I shift it onto, because I'm about to gain 7 lore. Like, it's just worth me doing that. So the fact that this is just a top-end Jafar card, you're happy to play as a 6-cost character and keep on the board, but also you'd be happy to shift onto it. It's just an extra Jafar threat. Like, this card, when you play it, is not just a card which is a 0/7 with Challenger 7 and stops all your opposing characters' challenge. It's also representing the threat of a shift Jafar sing Whole New World. And I think it's very good for that reason. I like it a lot. Now, when I say I like it a lot, it's actually not that good. I want to be clear. Like, you look at it and you're like, okay, but I just think it fits what I'm looking for in a Jafar deck. On to the final ink color. It's Amber. I think Amber's the best. I think Amber got the best cards. I wanted to save it till last. Gazelle Popstar, 2/3, quest for 2 with Singer 5. Very similar to the Gaston card, which I think is a 3/3 that quests for 1. This just seems better than Gaston. And I like that Gaston card. I think it's very underrated. Try Everything. Now, I can't believe this card is in the video, but I maybe underestimated it. You can remove up to 3 damage, and ready them, they can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn. Now, I don't think this card's very good. It probably shouldn't be in the video, but it's interesting enough to me that I wanted to include it because it can be good with cards which have abilities where you exert them for an ability. Big example is Gaston, right? You could use Gaston to pay 2 less for the next character you play, sing Try Everything, ready Gaston, use his ability again, and then you could pay 4 ink less. So you get like a really big character down early on. I kind of doubt it, but sure. This might be the worst card in the video, but it's cool. Invited to the ball, 2 cost, uninkable. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Put revealed character cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So if you have 2 characters on top of your deck, you're going to draw both of them. So you're spending 2 ink to add 1 card to your hand. The problem with this is the more copies of it you play, obviously the worse it becomes in theory because you're going to have less ratio of characters. So this could be like a good card as like a one-of maybe. I don't know. I think it's got potential, but a bit of a weird card. If you know the top card of your deck, and you know it's a character, then your odds of this actually doing well for you become better. So there's some synergy with like knowing the top card of your deck potentially with this as well. I could see it creeping into some decks here and there. Sven, this card's bonkers. This is an insanely good card. So I was just talking about Try Everything. Try Everything is a bad version of Sven. Because Sven is a 4-cost Inkable 3/3 that quests for 2. And whenever you play this character, you may ready chosen character they can't quest or challenge. But they can exert to do an ability. Like Gaston. So you go Gaston on 3. Yeah. Tap Gaston. So Sven costs you 2. Ready Gaston. Tap Gaston again. Play another Sven, which costs you 2. Ready Gaston again. Tap Gaston. Play a 2-cost card. Huh? Like that's actually a thing you can do. So you go Gaston on 3, double Sven, and a 2-cost on 4. And there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this. You can ready Ursula Deceiver of All and sing with her twice in a single turn, or 4 times. Oh, this card's so good. And like even just readying one of your characters, like a Lilo that's questing for 2, you just ready it so it can't be challenged. Like even that's good. And this card has good stats, 3/3 quest for 2. This card is bonkers. It is so good. One of the best cards in the set. Amber Chromicon. 2-cost inkable item. You can exert and remove up to 1 damage from each of your characters. Hello, Grandpappy. Come to Pappy. This card is so good with Grandpappy. I cannot wait to build a Grandpappy deck. Speaking of best cards in the set, this is also a contender. 4-cost inkable Alan Adale Rockin' Rooster. 2 3-star line quest for 2. Whenever you play a song, gain 1 lore. So there's like a flute with a body that can quest for 2 and can gain you more than 1 lore per turn from its ability, right? If you play Alan on 4 and you sing Friends and sing Bare Necessities, it's already gained you 2 lore before it's even able to be removed. And it quests for 2. This card is so insane. Queen's Censor Core, 2-cost inkable item, symbol of nobility. At the start of your turn, if you have a princess or queen character in play, gain 1 lore. Pretty good. This is why I've been saying like princess and queen are good tags. And Royal Search, you can exert it, spend 2 ink, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a princess or queen character, you may put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it on the top of your deck. I think this card's got potential. It's definitely a card which you could build a whole deck around. And you might actually have some success with. My gut feeling is maybe like the Queen Princess archetype doesn't quite have enough interconnected synergy amongst other cards, but this is definitely good payoff. There's also like that Moana card from set 1, which readies your other princess characters, I think. I've always quite liked that card if there's enough princesses. There's also like potential Queen synergy in Sapphire. I didn't really cover any of them because I don't really believe in them, but there's a lot of like Queen cards in Sapphire, the Queen, which reward you for having more characters called the Queen. Wreck-It Ralph, the Admiral Underpants, a 7-cost uninkable in Amber, 6/7 that quests for 2, and the ability I've got the coolest friend. When you play this character, return a character card from your discard to your hand. If that character is a princess character, gain 2 lore. Rapunzel, let down your hair. That is so good. Ruby Amber loves the look of this card. It is uninkable, But who cares? You get Rapunzel from your discard back into your hand. You replay her, draw 3 more cards, and you gain 2 lore for your trouble. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Very, very, very good. And obviously you can play this on the cheap with cards like Gaston, Pluto, Doc. Vanellope von Schweetz. This is a rare card, but she is the D23 promo card from set 5. If you haven't seen, on the release of Shimmering Skies, there's also like a D23 set, which has 1 card from each set, including Oswald from set 6. And Vanellope von Schweetz is the card from set number 5. And I will say, pretty much all the cards in this D23 set are pretty good. So Ravensburger clearly think that Vanellope von Schweetz is a very good card. It is a 4-cost Ingable, 2/4, shift 2, and I hereby decree as it gains 2 lore. I hereby decree as the ability. Whenever you play another princess character, all opposing characters get -1 strength until the start of your next turn. Under the Sea, anybody? Does seem like there's the potential for maybe like an Emerald Amber Under the Sea princess deck. Maybe, possibly. Pretty cool card. We have Revive. I love this card. 5-cost uninkable action. Play a character card with cost 5 or less from your discard for free. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Being able to replay Rapunzel multiple times, so good. And that's pretty thematic. Look at the art. Hello. Pride Lands Jungle Oasis is a 3-cost inkable location. It costs 2 to move there. It has 8 willpower. It gains 1 lore per turn. Our Humble Home. When you have 3 or more characters here, you may banish this location to play a character from your discard for free. Not super convinced on this one. But I think in an Amber Ruby location deck, it's going to be quite a nice addition because there's the card in Ruby Tuk Tuk, which you can play and move to a location for free and move another one of your characters to this location for free. So that's going to get you 2 out of the 3. And then if your opponent starts trying to sink damage into it before they're able to remove it, maybe it's got a few damage counters because it's hard to remove this in a single turn, then you can trigger the ability and just get big tempo. Maybe like play a Maui from your discard for free, challenge your opponent's exerted character which sunk damage into this, play Rapunzel from hand, win the game. So there's potential. Kristoff, this is the promo card, I believe, from the set. 9-cost uninkable, which is a 3/7. It quests for 3. Song of the Herd. For each song card in your discard, you pay 1 ink less to play this character, and it has Bodyguard. Very, very good. Going to be easy to get lots of songs in the discard. If you've got 4 songs in the discard, it's going to cost you 5. You can play way more than 1 copy of this. It's not like a Chernabog, which you just play 1 copy of. You could load up on Kristoff's. With A Whole New World in particular, you're going to discard a lot of songs very, very quickly as well. And therefore, it's possible in a long game, you might be playing nothing at all for Kristoff. And as a 3/7 with Bodyguard, poof, that would be pretty powerful. Blast from Your Past. I mentioned this card earlier, which is a 6-cost uninkable action song. Name a card, return all character cards with that name from your discard to your hand. So obviously, like Jafar, Magic Brooms could be interesting options, but I'm not really sure you want to play either of those decks with Amber particularly. Maybe you could. I mean, Revive on Jafar, like the 7-cost Jafar, would be pretty spectacular. Does Revive have to be 5 or less? It does. Okay, so ignore me on that one. Not really sure on this one. It's definitely got potential. There is also synergy with Prince Naveen, which is a legendary we're going to look at in a moment, because Prince Naveen could play this for free. Maybe like Ariel could be a nice target, because you've got the 3-cost Ariel. Obviously, the more copies of a character you can play, like the Queen could be an interesting option in the right deck. Any kind of theme deck which has lots of characters of the same, this has potential. Daisy Duck, best card in the set. Okay. Best card in the set. How many times have I said that this video? But oh my goodness, this card. This is actually my pick for favorite card of the set. 1-cost uninkable, 1/4 stat line quest for 2, big prize. Whenever this character quests, each opponent reveals the top card of the deck. If it's a character card, they may put it into their hand. Otherwise, they put it on the bottom of the deck. This is just a mind-blowingly good card. You can't even remove this with Rafiki or Captain Hook. Can you? You can't, right? They're 3 strength. Like, how do you deal with this? I'm going first. I play Daisy Duck. How do you deal with this? It's so insane. It's so good. absolutely mind-blowingly good card. Best card of the set, maybe. Mirabelle Madrigal, which is the promo card for the set champs, which is now going to be the top 8 players. This card is not very good, but I did want to cover all the legendaries, and there's some potential with it. You can't play this character unless you have 5 or more characters in play. In other words, you can't play this character. So that's not great, is it? That you can't replay her. But there is potential synergy there with the Queen from Emerald, the 3-cost uninkable, which can exert to discard a card from your hand to gain lore. And you can play something like Kristoff to ready it and go again. 10 lore in a single turn with the Queen. That's a deck that I'm going to be building with Mirabelle Madrigal. Prince Naveen, final card, also contender for best card in the set. The Prince Naveen ukulele player, 4-cost uninkable, 3/3, singer 6. Quest for 2. When you play this character, you may play a song with cost 6 or less for free. That's pretty good. Whole New World on turn 4. GG. It's very good. Very, 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 very good card. There's all sorts of cool synergies with this as well. You could play Mama Odie and Sapphire on turn 3. Then Prince Naveen on turn 4 to play How Far I'll Go, which then your Mama Odie gets like an extra lore from, extra ink from as well to ramp in a really big way while developing the board with characters as well. Really, really impressive card. Gonna have a lot of interesting synergies to look out for. The most obvious place for it is in a Amber Steel Songs deck with Whole New World, Grab Your Swords. There is, of course, this other Blast From Your Past card I just mentioned. Daisy Duck's so good. But yeah, lots of very cool cards. That's a long video. They're the best 100 cards from Shimmering Skies, in my opinions. Is there any cards I didn't talk about, which you think I missed out on? I know I also missed one legendary card. I'm lazy and don't like editing, so I'm just going to write the card I missed in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you are buying singles and you watch this far, don't forget to use my affiliate code for TCG Player. It does help out more than you know. And thanks again so much. I'm excited for some Shimmering Skies deck building coming very, very soon.